This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. So today we are here to talk about Turn Right at Machu Picchu. Same one. Mine is from the library. Thank you, Margaret Brooker, if you're watching. It's her library, and I think she hasn't been able to read this because I had the only copy from our library system. But anyway, I'm going to start with you, Justin, because you have been to Machu Picchu and I have not had the pleasure yet. So tell us your thoughts overall compared to your actual journey and your thoughts about the book.
So the book would be ideal to read before you go to Machu Picchu because there's a lot of history in there. So it's kind of got all the information, the backstory information you want to know about Machu Picchu before you actually go, plus, you know, the humorous storyline along there. So there's a lot of good facts in there. I went, I think a few years ago. It was actually my birthday, and I didn't do the hike because I just didn't have the time to fit that in. So I caught the train from the town of Contembo. I don't know if I pronounced that one right.
Better than me.
And got in so I caught the train and stayed the night in the town below, and then got up early in the morning on my birthday at 5 a.m. to catch the buses up to the top. And it literally is, when they call it a highway, it literally is, because there's bus after bus after bus. There's I think I counted 20 buses arriving just to pick up the first group of people wanting to go up. And there were more. And you get to the gates and you walk in, and of course all the hikers are up at the sun gate waiting for the sun to rise. So you actually probably get into the main town, the main part of Machu Picchu, before the hikers do, because you're closer to it. They're usually waiting for the sun to rise and don't come down. But the only problem was the sun didn't come out till about midday. So I spent 6 hours wandering through a foggy, misty Machu Picchu, which is still good, but given the whole temple's to do with the sun and how the sun shines onto various things, and that stereotypical view that everyone likes to get a photo of, I managed to just get one as I was leaving for the day. So so I probably want to go back now, but now that I've read the book and pick a sunnier day. So, but it is as good as it looks.
It does sound amazing, and I agree. I think the way that Mark Adams intertwines all of the historical aspects is really, really good in here. Made it very intriguing.
And I think, I knew some of the stuff. I knew some of the stuff about Hiram Bingham and things like that, but how it all, and I kind of knew there wasn't just the one Inca trail that everyone hikes to Machu Picchu and all that kind of stuff. And I even knew of the other place, one of the other places, Choqquirao or something like that. Again, that's a hard one. I knew that one was kind of starting to open up when I was there in 2016. So they were trying to get tourists to go there. It was just a much longer hike, harder hike to get to. So I think so.
Yeah.
So yes, but I think it's not really a guidebook, but it kind of gives you all the background info plus some other good information about the country and what's going on. And so I think if you're going to go to Machu Picchu, when we're all allowed to go to Machu Picchu, read the book first.
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
I think.
Yeah,
and a lot of funny stories to boot.
That's true.
I found it very entertaining. I thought it was a great combo. So so overall, my thoughts were that basically I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it makes me want to go to Machu Picchu even more than I did already. I hope that this guy on the cover is there when I arrive.
They do roam around, the llamas. I
love them.
Are there?
Yeah, good.
They tend not to be too aggressive. So
not too spitty.
No, and they probably belong to the farmers around who own the land around Machu Picchu, as I've discovered. Farmers.
I know. I kind of envisaged it as a vast national park, all well preserved, but yes, it's not exactly that, is it?
No.
I learned a lot. All right, let's start with, we've got a few topics that we wanted to cover, and one of those being, first, I can see there's a few people watching, so do say hello in the comments so we know who you are and who's joined us this morning / yesterday evening in the US. But one of our topics that we picked out to chat about, Justin, was tour guides, being on tours and all of this kind of stuff, because there was quite a lot of this in the book. And I love John.
Yeah, I think that
tour guide. Go on.
John, yeah. And we know he's Australian, and we're not all like John, but he does kind of have that stereotype of an Australian, taking things as they come. Nothing's too much of a problem. Just get his machete out and hack a path through the forest, that kind of stuff. We're not all like that, but probably the attitude, yeah.
Yes, yes, I think so too. Yeah, I think he's got the dry sense of humour that a lot of Aussies of that, especially of his generation. Like I would be, if I remember rightly, he's like a couple of decades older than us, Justin.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the comment that I really, really like, because I do remember a guide on my first overseas trip trying to pass off a Furphy kind of thing, and I didn't believe it, but lots of people on the bus did. But the bit where he overheard a guide tell the tourists that they could feel the cosmic warmth emanating from the rock, and he looked at
cosmic warmth.
Cosmic warmth. And he says, "It's a rock. It's been sitting in the sun all day. Of course, it's going to be warm." And
exactly.
So I don't know if the guide was just having fun with the tourists on that one or not, but yeah, I saw the one I remember was the in Europe was the cooling towers of a power plant, and he told everyone on the bus that's how they create clouds in Europe to get all the rain, and people on the bus completely believe that one. And
really,
and yeah, and at the end of the tour, he told everyone the truth, and the look on people's faces about, I can't believe you lied to us about all those things.
I can't believe they didn't have basic knowledge and didn't think that was
true. This is pre-internet. I say pre-internet. The internet was around. It wasn't.
No, but you kind of learned stuff at school too. You didn't just need the internet.
Yes, I know. It was on a Kentucky tour as well, so
okay.
Downplaying the.
You've just completely
but yes,
my envisaging of what Kentucky tour people are like. So
yeah,
except with you as an exception.
And the other one,
sorry.
Yeah, stories for another day.
Yeah.
The other thing I found when I was in there was because there was this big sales pitch to go see the Sun Gate. You got to be at the Sun Gate, so that's what they tell all the hikers and everything like that. But then on the ground, the people say, "Oh no, the best views are from here or from here or from there." And even in the book, they kind of confirmed where the best views were, and even the places they stopped on the Inca Trail, because they did the 5-day instead of the 4-day trip. They stopped in better places and stuff like that, so they weren't, doing the 4-day rush. And I think, it's kind of interesting how it can make that much of a difference. So, and of course, I think you made a comment about the formula for making people John happy. So,
yes,
solitude.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I mean, like you say, with the 5-day versus the 4-day, even that for a start, and a lot of it is just marketing, isn't it? You must be here for sunrise stuff. It's just marketing, and it's what's easier and possible for more tourists, perhaps. What's more practical for guiding companies to get them to a certain place at certain times, so they've got realistic expectations. Blah blah blah. It's kind of a lot of marketing and customer satisfaction, whereas if you actually are kind of just there on the ground and chat to a few locals, you'll probably find a lot of different information about different recommendations and things that are more suitable. And I think that's probably true of every popular tourist destination, that we have these ideas and then therefore these expectations, and it's part of that bucket list kind of version of it is that this is what you do when you go to Machu Picchu, or like even at the Taj Mahal, you have your picture taken at that particular, sitting on that particular bench, and which is fine, but it might mean that you spend hours lining up to do that instead of spending time wandering around. I don't know, I haven't been to Taj Mahal, so I don't know, but there's that kind of, it's hard to know how to fix it.
Some people go for that one Instagram shot as well and then leave, and you go, really? So
yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, me, I'm much prefer to just wander aimlessly and see what I come across. But and I suppose, especially for most people, a trip to Machu Picchu is very likely to be a once in a lifetime experience. For lots of us, it's really far away. Yeah, you want to kind of you don't want to miss out. There's this pressure that that we, as media and advertising and tour industries, put onto things. But back to John, because I did love John, and he's just so many of his lines were. I mean, I think without a guide like John, the book would have been less funny, because he's just that character that you can just pull things. Just direct quotes sound funny, and it's just his approach to life. Like I just even like. When I think they must have been discussing some of the, the sunlight paths and stuff, but he just said the Incas were big on special effects, and
yes.
It's like, special effects came long after the Incas, really. But I thought that really described it well. And as you already mentioned, the happiness formula. This is Mark Adams being very clever. I thought when they got to that was Mount Machu Picchu and nobody else was there at the top, and so he wrote the formula for making John happy could be expressed as R plus S times E, or ruins plus solitude multiplied by exertion, which I thought was a great way to express, and it's a great way to express what can be the best moments of a trip.
Yeah, my personal formula doesn't have the multiplied by exertion, but
ruins plus solitude is good. Yes, I agree. I prefer not to. Yeah, the solitude factor shouldn't be. The exertion factor shouldn't be too high. But
yes, but some people do like that. They really do like a really hard place to get to.
Yes. Well, first of all, it means you're less likely to find too many other people there. And I guess the sense of achievement is greater, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't want to do too much exertion. There's a level. You're quite right. I always remember even the exertion level, because I was quite unfit at the time to get to the top of Mount Fuji in Japan. And because you're in it's everywhere in Japan, there was a traffic jam of people, of hikers, and it was the same. You've got to get to the top because of when the sun rises, it's 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh, I really would just be happy to watch from here, but we're in a group and they're like, go, 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 go. I'm like, oh. So I got to the top and my exertion level was a little bit high to really enjoy that sunrise at its peak. But, so it is. So I'm going to skip down to that last part of when we talked about guides and tours is it kind of fits in about ticking things off lists and stuff. And John, the tour guide, had this to say, which I think is, kind of follows on. Travel today is ticking things off. Phew, I've done Machu Picchu. Now I can get drunk. It used to take 3 weeks to get people in the right frame of mind to unbrainwash them. Now it will take 3 months just to get people's heads straightened. It's a real problem now. People don't know how to enjoy life. They want hedonism, short-term thrills. And that was something that John, the tour guide, who is not like that at all, had seen worsen, I suppose, or increase over his guiding career.
Yeah, and I think even in Machu Picchu, they even got to the point where Machu Picchu, they had to put limits on the number of people on the trail and things like that, because it was just becoming
overrun.
Yeah, congested and overrun. And I think a lot of places have had to look at that, like how many tourists can they allow into their site while still being able to maintain it. So it's a big issue, I think, going forward for some sites. So others, who knows? Venice, you just look at what Venice was trying to do. Too many people, and
I would like to think that post-pandemic travel has at least a little bit more, takes a little bit more notice of over-tourism, because, we saw all those amazing pictures early pandemic when over-touristed places were empty and how, nature came back and all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully there's, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
hopefully.
So it might also be that, oh my God, I might never get to visit it if I don't go now, kind of sets in, that fear of not being able to travel whenever you want.
That's true.
So could go either way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen at this stage, but
no, we can be optimistic.
I've heard things could be so expensive people won't travel to. Everyone will be trying to travel to everywhere,
just in case.
So it'll be interesting. Just in case,
it'll be very interesting. There was one more bit you mentioned in the being on tour thing about the loud groups of people.
One. Yeah, being in they're in I think it was in the town of one of the porters or the guides, the locals they had, and literally they said in minutes our quiet oasis was thronged with chatty Scandinavians. And nothing against Scandinavians at all. I think chatty anyone, but yeah, you kind of can be. I think even people who thought they found like a nice quiet hostel, for example, and all of a sudden they get a group of people in that night that are really loud and crack open the beers first, and so I think it can be a real downer if you found a nice quiet spot because that's what you're looking for, and it gets ruined by even when you're out hiking and stuff like that. You'll see a group of people and they're not aware of how loud they are, and so yeah.
I must say, I'm probably a perpetrator of this problem at times because I can be chatty and loud.
I could be too at times as well. So,
and I think Aussies tend to be more chatty and loud. Like, it's surprising for me that they were Scandinavians, but yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But
and I think even then,
the serenity.
And it's quite funny because you can even then say that they don't even need to be loud. I've seen like groups of either Japanese or Chinese tourists, and they'll come in on a busload because they tend to do tours because they don't tend to speak English or the local language, and they'll come in a tour and they'll just flock, and then they'll stand in front of all these views that you're trying to get a photo of, or while they're trying to get a photo, and just complete.
Yes, you end up with a lot of tourist heads in the bottom of your pictures. I hate that. So yeah.
So, but anyway, it's unfortunately it's how sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't.
And if we continue to want to go to places that are as impressive and amazing as somewhere like Machu Picchu, well, it's sort of
exactly
hard to avoid because now another topic that came up quite a few times was Indigenous artifacts, stealing stuff, and all of this. So this is a problem in many parts of the world where we Western discoverers have come along and discovered places from history.
I dare say, I think the British were very good at stealing local artifacts, because I know the British Museum's always being asked for stuff back.
Yes.
So
exactly. Yes.
And I think it's a common thing. A lot of museums are always asking for things back, and just on a similar side point, a few years ago they had a show on in Canberra at the art gallery, and it was Treasures of the Incan Empire. And I think back now and I go, this was I think it was after they went on this trip. So I don't know whether it was the Yale University who it was with, or whether it was the Peruvian government that had all that who were touring the artifacts. So I can't remember now. I'd have to do some research to see who was doing that. But I think that was probably before I went to Machu Picchu. So it was around sort of maybe 2014, 15 it was on. So so I'm not sure, but
it makes you think twice, doesn't it? So there was a discussion in the book about some years back that there was issues in Peru where they weren't taking good care of the artifacts either. So there was reluctance to give them back in case they didn't actually end up being taken care of, which is kind of another thorny side to that issue, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's we've seen that in a lot of things where I guess the foreigners or the visitors to the country have decided that the locals are either primitive or not as advanced, so they can't look after things, and we'll look after them better. We'll take them back and look after them. And in reality, some of these sites being hidden, like Machu Picchu, they were being looked after, just not the way we would.
We just didn't know about them, and it was probably better for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Bingham and all of his contemporaries discovering things is an ongoing issue. I reread recently the Uluru Statement, and I went back to that because there was a nice statement there from the Australian perspective of that, and it was from some Torres Straits discussions, and it said, so talking of Captain James Cook, who, when I was in school, we were taught Captain James Cook discovered Australia. But of course, they wrote, Cook did not discover us because we saw him. We were telling each other with smoke, yet in his diary he said discovered, not. They were here.
And even then, he wasn't even the first European to really set foot on the continent either. So as it's since turned out, in Western Australia in particular, there were other Europeans who visited and had parts of the coast named after them. So
yes, absolutely. But they all wisely decided not to settle here because it's so far away and so empty and nothing. But but the British settled, so they wrote the history, and that was what was taught for so long. And it all goes in the same vein. It's like taking the artifacts because we can look after them, when in reality, and a lot of this stuff can go on the countries who own the artifacts
tend to like to send them on these traveling tours around the world and stuff. So every now and then you will get a display of artifacts from a country or a culture that is on display. And I know Egypt has a similar issue. They want to get all their artifacts back from around the world because it was very popular to go and find stuff and take them back to their museums. So.
Yeah. Yes, still a fair bit of work to do on correcting those imbalances, I think. Now, the final topic we wanted to look at was the hiking aspect of it, because they did a lot of that, didn't they?
Yes.
Would you do a trip?
I like hiking, but I'm not sure I'd do that.
No, me neither. I am a fair weather hiker for sure, and I prefer flat places.
Oh, you could be a martini hiker.
I like that you made that note. The martini explorer.
Yeah,
it's totally me. I like the idea more than the reality, I think. But
you'd be surprised. There's even a lot of I guess it goes along with the glamping as well, like the glamping, and now there's a lot of these multi-day hikes where you stay in nice accommodation every night. Somehow they've built.
Yes. I'm actually in the
beginnings
of planning such a thing. Exactly. So, yes, because
so you can go martini hiking, Amanda.
I think it'll be wine hiking, but yes,
wine hiking that works as well.
I confess that is totally my style, but I did. There were some reminders in this book about other things I have learned about hiking in the past, and my first thing was I noted about. Mark Adams wrote about the rainbow colours, so everyone's in their fancy hiking gear, and he said at least 200 people dressed in all the unnatural colours of the moisture-wicking apparel rainbow, which made me laugh. But my good friend Caro Ryan from Lots of Fresh Air, she's been on the podcast before, and she lives in the Blue Mountains and does masses of hiking. And we had this discussion once because, it seems like if you are like a natural hiker, you should be in like natural colors, but she said no, make sure you always have a really, really bright color, because she also works with search and rescue, and it is massively easier to be searching for someone in bright pink or bright yellow or whatever than someone in a khaki jacket. And she was very adamant about that, so I have taken that on board, and my newest rainproof thing is bright red, so that's okay, I decided.
We'll be able to find you. Yes, I think the neutral colours is more to do. Yes, no one does. I don't think the neutral colours. I think I've heard that said at a lot of things to do with wildlife and animals, and apparently it's also animals can get certain animals don't like the brighter colours, and so. That makes neutral tones. So if you're hiking and looking for animals, I guess, but you can always have something bright in your backpack to get out. So
yes, you need it. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay, so there's a market for a reversible jacket that has the I'm lost colour on the outside, and the animals won't be bothered by me on the other side. So you heard it here first. If you make your millions from that idea, then give me a cut.
When we get the and remember the two sock rule, Amanda. I'm not sure if you're aware of the two sock rule.
Please tell me more. I kind of didn't really know, I confess.
So I've since discovered this, and when I discovered it, because you get sore feet and you get more blisters, so when you put the two socks on, a lot of the rubbing occurs between the two socks and not between your foot and the socks.
This makes sense.
Therefore, you don't tend to get blisters. So
this is what I'm wondering, because I feel like two socks don't fit, and you can see my complete hiking ignorance, but I will try next time.
I did it on the Tongariro crossing in New Zealand, which is was part of the trail from our last month's book, and I wore them up, and I thought, oh, this is great. But then walking down wasn't so great. But then all the locals looked at me and said, oh yeah, you just wear your sneakers, or whatever the New Zealanders call sneakers, to walk down in. You wear hiking boots up and sneakers down, and they looked at me going, doesn't everyone know that? Don't you do that back home? No.
Well, we don't have many hills for a start.
And I had no sneakers with me, so not the type I could walk down a hill in. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. I read that in your notes. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I always remember when I went down Mount Fuji that it was nuts, because it was all volcanic ash, And so every step
Yeah.
of your boots and socks filled with this volcanic ash because you'd be sinking into it. I thought there must be a better way here, but we were already lost. I don't have a good record with this kind of stuff. We were lost going down the wrong part of Mount Fuji. So perhaps if I'd gone where I had meant to be going, I would have not suffered. But there's that. Angela has just asked, she said, is it quite challenging altitude-wise in Machu Picchu?
So Machu Picchu isn't at an altitude that you get altitude sickness at. The Inca Trail and the nearby town of Cusco are at altitude. So Cusco's at 3,300 meters, and I apologize, I'm not any good at feet when it comes to height.
Use the internet, America.
Above 2,800 meters is when altitude sickness can kick in.
Right.
And which is higher than any mountain in Australia, so we never have that issue. But so Cusco is at a high altitude, and then the trail goes even higher than Cusco, and then you kind of hike down, and the height of Machu Picchu is only about 2,000, or it's quite low compared to, and it's below that. So if you have issues with altitude sickness, you can just go. You're going to have to go to Cusco, and you tend to spend. I had a day where I didn't do anything at all. And then I had a couple of other days, and you can do bus tours to all the other Incan ruins around. So there's so much to see in and around Cusco. You can spend a few days there, and if you don't feel right, you can just take it easy. And then after a few days, you can train or bus down into Machu Picchu, or you can do the hike. They generally recommend you need to spend time before you either do the hike or at Cusco. So and Cusco's not so bad. Not compared to, say, La Paz in Bolivia, which is even higher, and I definitely was quite. You feel the effects there, whereas Cusco, you do feel it, but not as bad, So
we've had a few comments on the martini hiking and the wine hiking, so maybe we're starting a new trend. Well, we didn't really.
You can branch out, Amanda, and Amanda's wine hikes. The Thoughtful Travel Wine Hiking Club.
I know it doesn't sort of fit the brand, does it? But anyway, moving along.
Yes.
I think that's nearly all we wanted to. Oh, Justin, just tell us briefly about, because I kind of read through it and didn't really notice, but you went away and fact checked the Moscow thing. Can you just tell us a little bit?
Oh, right. So,
fascinating.
So it's a song that I've heard of in Australia. But apparently only in Australia. So the Moscow is, drinking vodka all night long.
Yeah, I can.
And it goes on again.
It, but I can imagine it. Moscow, drinking vodka all night long. Yeah.
Anyway, so apparently it was a German band, Genghis Khan, who wrote it, and it was really a one-hit wonder only in Australia, and only because it was the music for the 1980 Moscow Olympics.
So did they use it on the TV for the Moscow Olympics?
Yes. So at the beginning of the Channel 7 here in Australia used it, as their kind of
theme
music.
Song.
And the thing is, and John made a comment in the book, about how can anyone not know this? It was a hit. It was the theme song to the Moscow Olympics, but only in Australia. And
I mean, it is perhaps, as you suggested, maybe culturally insensitive. So
I think when you look at the lyrics. I mean, us Australians, we have that sense of humour that if someone wrote a song about Australians like that, we'd be fine with it, about us and all the things that we're stereotyped for. But I'm not sure the Russians would be happy where they're stereotyped about drinking vodka all night long, even though they do.
I was going to say, it's perhaps more than a stereotype, but... But you're right.
So anyway, it was...
Yes, that is just hilarious. I love discovering those kind of nuggets of random facts, and I had read over it and not thought about it, so it was really interesting to see your fact checking on it. So I loved it. Awesome. Cool. All right, we're about to wind up, so if there's any more comments, do yell, because I'm watching these here. But overall, if you haven't read it, read it. It was well worth it. Agreed, Justin?
I agree. I think it's a different style of book to some of the other ones we've read, because this is true. You kind of flicks back to talking about the historical stuff with Hiram Bingham exploring and his journey, and then of course they're following that journey So you're getting a bit of the historical information along with their own journey. So in that regard, it's quite different. And there's a lot of information in here, so I can understand people might find it a bit tedious in parts, but I think otherwise it was really the funny bits were worth reading it for, and the information was worth reading it for.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's sometimes it feels a little bit dense on information, but most of the time it's interwoven so well that it's actually.
I mean, there is at the back of my copy anyway, like a list of the timelines, and also so they've got timelines of events around there, and they've also got a glossary of some of the things, because it's hard to remember all this, like the
different names.
Incan people and the Spanish people, and things like that. So it does come in handy if you're like trying to remember what all the various things were, and so my copy has that, which is quite useful. Especially
I wish I'd noticed the glossary before I got to the end. The glossary would have been useful during. So yes. As I flicked through the glossary, it just got to that last bit where he mentions the Martini Explorer thing. I just have to read this bit because I'd forgotten that it's funny. It's the very end, and it's Mark Adams. He says, "I've got it." He said. I said, "Bingham started out as a Martini Explorer and then turned out to be a real adventurer. I started out as a tourist, but then I turned out to be a real traveller too, right?" Actually, John said slowly, "You remember how things work in Peru, Mark. It all depends on who you ask." So I think I don't think John actually decided that Mark was a real traveller, but so yeah. So who knows? But we could start out as wine hikers and become anything. So you just never know. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.